See, this is quite good choreography.
And that was a nice shot from above, yeah? Well, hello and welcome to the Shallow Proclamation. My name is Paul.
And I'm Thomas.
And for the first time in the experiment, since we've actually started watching episodes, we have actually aligned our space-time coordinates and we're in the same location.
Yeah, can I shake your hand? Are you actually real?
You're actually real. It's the first time we've ever met. No, it's all right. Yeah, the stars have aligned. And here we are. We've managed to... I think this is probably the only one we're going to fit in, isn't it? We're not going to be able to watch the whole story. We literally get one episode together. So yeah, we're going to crack on with that in a moment. Do give us a like and a subscribe down below. That's very helpful for us. Do comment as well and let us know what you think of the story. And if you've got things for the whole season, we'll do a season 2 review at the end of it. We'd love to have your questions for that. If you do put a question for that, let us know it's a question for the review, because occasionally it's hard to tell whether someone's just asking a general question or what it's for.
Why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this? We ask ourselves that question most days. Yeah, so we're about to crack on with episode 1 of the Crusade. I think it's called The Lion, if I remember correctly. And it's our first... so we've got an episode now, haven't we, which is a proper episode. Then I think we've got a reconstruction. And then another episode of reconstruction. So it's a 4-parter. So it's our first reconstruction since Marco Polo, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And actually it's the first... When we watched the reconstruction before... It was all reconstruction, wasn't it? 7 episodes.
Unless you include the animations for Reign of Terror, but of course that's...
Oh, yes, of course.
That's more of a... Sure. You can watch that more, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this, I suppose, is the first time we're going to have an episode and then a recon. So, it will be a different experience anyway. So I'm hoping it won't be quite as hard work as Marco Polo was, even though we love Marco Polo. So anyway, we're going to crack on with this one. So this story was broadcast from the 27th of March 1965 through to the 17th of April. It's directed by Douglas Camfield, who's quite a big name in Doctor Who, in his directing there. Written by David Whittaker. I can't remember, did the last one lead straight into this?
I don't want to think about the last one. So Crusade, I'm thinking, is this the Crusades?
I think that's that is the kind of era we're talking about here. Yeah,
right.
So,
yeah.
And we know that generally the BBC are quite good at the old school, historical type ones. So
that was nice. TARDIS appearing in the same shot as the guys.
Didn't have your classic TARDIS noise, did it? It was more of a whoop whoop.
That was a bit wet, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's a little bit different. It's nice though. I like the TARDIS in the bushes. That looks great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a real bird. Now, do you recognise this guy on the right?
I do. Where do I recognise him from?
I'll leave you for a while.
I feel like I've seen him in classic Doctor Who before.
I don't think he's been in Doctor Who as yet. I think this might be his first appearance. He does appear in it again, but he's been in some quite big films, TV shows further down the road.
Yes. Oh. I'm going to kick myself, aren't I? Go on.
So, his name's Julian Glover.
Right.
So, you might have seen him in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
And he's also in Empire Strikes Back, I think. It's not Raiders of the Lost Ark, is it? It's Last Crusade. He's the one that drinks the cup, and then his face kind of melts. In Empire Strikes Back, he plays, I think he's one of the drivers of like an AT-AT in Empire Strikes Back. They're a good team, these four.
Yeah.
They already work well together.
Even though they've only had a couple of stories together so far. Yeah. Yeah,
2 full stories, isn't it? So we've had the Romans and then the last story, Web Planet. Less said. That's exactly what I was thinking.
No time to settle.
No. Not like the Romans, where they've been there for months just having a nice time.
Yeah.
In the villa.
I would still love to see a Doctor Who episode where they just travel to an alien planet and just have a really nice time.
Yeah.
So is this another historical, are we saying?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I don't remember much about it, but I don't think there's any alien threats or anything like that.
It's funny, you can't imagine the modern era doing this, can you? Like a pure historical. Even things like the Rosa Parks episode, there's this kind of guy who's travelled
Space racist. Spacist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually felt that detracted from the story, but we'll get to that. Considering he's a chemistry teacher, Ian's quite forward in just like coming up. I mean, I don't know if any people say he was in the war, so he's probably not afraid of a bit of conflict.
He's no stranger to an danger. Arm, though, is he?
He's no stranger to danger.
That's it. See, this is quite good choreography.
And that was a nice shot from above, yeah?
Yeah.
Just not kind of very... You could have shot it quite pedestrian-like, couldn't you?
The god shot. This is better than the duelling we saw in the last episode.
This is good. This is like Boromir in Lord of the Rings, just there.
Ooh, I felt that.
We've just done a first aid course. You shouldn't really pull things out of the wounds.
Yeah,
generally.
put
if
the
it's
bandage
embedded.
around it.
Just leave it, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in the Holy Land?
King Richard the Lionheart.
I believe that is the same Richard, yeah.
Do you reckon it's real foliage?
I don't know, yeah, maybe.
Sorry, I don't know why I said foliage. Plants.
It might be.
Did you ever eat Jaffa cakes by taking the orange bit out the disc? Yeah.
Yeah, I still do.
You're right.
I still eat round the edge, then get rid of all the sponge, get rid of the chocolate, just so I've got a little disc of jelly, and then save that till the end.
You have a jar full of discs that you're saving up.
Yeah. I thought Julian Glover was Richard the Lionheart, so this guy's pretending, yeah.
Right, yes. He's the decoy king, like Princess Amidala.
Keira Knightley.
Yes, Keira Knightley's first film, isn't it? Or one of her
early days,
first.
yeah. Some of them might be slightly blacked up, which is a little bit kind of...
Right. Did this episode have a warning beforehand, sometimes on Brit?
Oh yeah, it may have done, we didn't notice. But
contains racially charged material.
Yeah. It's the guy on the right who I think just is a white actor who's been slightly kind of blacked up.
Right.
There's other things like that in some of early Doctor Who. Or not even some of the early stuff, but even maybe into the 70s, where you go, why did they pick those people to do the acting role? You know, why did they use this man to be Chinese when he's clearly not Chinese?
You are very cautious, you traders from Venice.
So the TARDIS translation matrix, which isn't part of the show yet, but just running with this, does it give you an accent? Or does it just give you the words to say?
That's interesting. Never thought about that.
Someone will know. Someone will have done some research into this.
So do you think if it gave you an accent when they were talking to the larvae in the previous story, the larvae would hear them going like, "Oh, we've been travelling in our TARDIS."
It feels like we're back on the rails. You know, I don't know where this is going. I don't know if this is going to be a good story overall, but I'm managing to take this a lot more seriously.
Well, the whole production just feels a lot slicker already, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, admittedly, not as hard to pull off.
No, sure.
They are pulling it off.
Can you imagine if you'd watched the last one over 6 weeks?
I think what it did is it sorted the true Doctor Who fans from the chaff. If you're still watching after the Web Planet, you must love the show. Nowadays, if you're still watching after the Chibnall era, you must be a fan.
Diehards.
Gallifrey girls are a big fan.
They do seem
Big
to like
fans
it, yeah.
So other opinions are available, and I'm sure we'll get onto that when we.
By the time we get there, it may have aged well.
Yeah, like a fine wine. That's a good torch on the right, isn't it? A proper fire.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to headbutt someone with one of those helmets, would you?
No.
Or maybe that's the point. In battle. Oh, that wasn't even deliberate. Not to put too fine a point on it.
Barbara being brought in as like a trophy for him. Barbara doesn't have much luck with men in Doctor Who, does she?
She doesn't.
Just so as not to break with tradition, I will say that sets are good. I'll tell you why this is a good set. It's because I don't feel like they're on a set.
Right.
It feels like an actual, like, tented kind of location.
Willing suspension of disbelief. Yes.
Sherazade was the Pokemon, wasn't it?
Oh,
Fire
really?
one.
I thought you were going to make a serious comment there.
No.
I like that shot that just pulled in on Barbara's face.
Yeah.
Kind of the dawning realisation of the situation she's in.
This woman can rot in one of Saladin's prisons until her hair turns white before I'll trade with the man that killed my friends.
Here we go.
Nice. Well, you can see a slight rippling on the titles.
There we go, Julian Glover.
I found that quite good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a breath of fresh air after having the last story, which was quite hard work.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm just remembering that now.
It's amazing how different you can go from, where we were to something like this, because the quality just seems far superior.
Highs and lows.
Yeah, and it just feels like it feels sort of like a really well done production so far, doesn't it? Like everything has felt like, from the kind of forest scenes through the sort of the tent kind of Saladin there, and then at the end with Richard the Lionheart, the markets as well, like the outfits. You compare that to what we saw last time when you've got giant ants and moths that just feel just a little bit kind of cheap and...
Zombie!
Yeah, doesn't quite come off perhaps as they'd hoped it would. So yeah, this just feels like a really nice step up, doesn't it, from there? It feels like great production and kind of classic historical, fall into the middle of a bit of history, get embroiled in it, separate it out. Obviously Barbara's been taken off, they need to work out how to get her back.
Yeah. And it's funny, we often reference Indiana Jones when we watch these historicals in Doctor Who. I guess partly in this case because of Julian Glover, but also that whole kind of, Crusaders and Knights and that area of history. It's almost quite mythologized, isn't it, in culture since this came out.
So you'd kind of
Richard the Lionheart and
so you think of the stuff like Indiana Jones, Knights Templar, you kind of think of stuff like Da Vinci Code, all that kind of stuff where they've taken that kind of mythology of that kind of era and
taken it in all sorts of directions.
All kinds of directions. So that's good. But no, I mean obviously I don't think this is going to go down any of those roads. Right. Making it kind of particularly conspiratorial or anything like that. I think it's just going to be much more pure.
Leonardo da Vinci's painting The Last Supper reveals that this is the location of the Holy Grail. You're right. It's it feels like it's trying to play it. I mean, I don't know much about the actual history of it, but it feels like it's trying to play it quite straight and I suppose educational in a way. I guess the idea is children could watch this and be slightly more familiar with Richard the Lionheart, Crusades, Holy Land kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think even I was just thinking it when we were watching it earlier that even though I don't know this story particularly well, there are definitely, I can't think of examples off the top of my head now, but there are definitely things about history that I kind of know about a little bit purely because I've seen it on Doctor Who. So I imagine there will be children who are growing up today who will watch an episode like Rosa or the Witchfinders, and they will have some knowledge when they're older of the Rosa Parks story. They'll probably learn about that in school anyway, but or the idea of there being witchfinders and that kind of thing, purely because when they were children they watched Doctor Who and they watched the same episodes again and again and again. So there will be, again, I just can't think of an example because my head's gone completely blank now, but even if it's not a pure historical, there are going to be stories in Doctor Who where they go back in time to a certain era and you've learned something about that time. Even if it's not purely historically accurate, you've gleaned some sort of rough idea about that period of history. And that, for me, I'd say I probably learned so much from Doctor Who.
I mean, how else would the two of us know about the feud between the Menoptera and the Zabi?
It's criminally undercovered in the education system, let's be honest. But
from the roof rings hate.
Boy, dada come from the sky.
We'll certainly be talking about it for a while.
Absolutely, ripe for parody. So,
well, should we wrap that one up there?
I think so. Yeah, that was good though. I've enjoyed it. And so we've got a recon next, so that might be a bit trickier, but hopefully we'll be able to keep on top of it. And like I say, we've just got one. It's kind of one on, one off at the moment, so shouldn't be too hard. So. Great, let us, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Let us know what you think of this story down below. Give us a like and a subscribe, and join us next time for episode 2. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.